Inner Healers is a worldwide community of people who believe healing comes from the inside, as well as all the answers needed to live a happy, healthy life. As such, has set the Inner Healers Radio, an online talk show on alternative medicine, to provide life guidance and help people connect their emotions with their natural inner state of health. With this radio and the help of all our guests and callers, we hope to create a space for sharing our lights online. Listen to your favorite teachers, authors, psychologists, channelers, healers, psychics, music therapists, and more. Join show host, healer and founder of Inner Healers in Peru, Luciana Stiglitz, while she unravels each topic hand in hand with her wise guests. Many people around the world have improved their lives thanks to their sharing through the Inner Healers community. Join us for a joyful experience. Shows are recorded, so you can download each as a podcast to listen on your way to work or whenever needed.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our Inner Healers Radio. My name is Luciana Stiglitz, and I will be your host for today. Our very special guest is Lynn Forrest. I read something that you wrote about us working on some roles by birth order. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm talking about the every family. There's a particular system of birth order that just simply by being born in a particular position, if you're number one child versus number two child, can actually, what comes with that birth position may be an actual set of rules or a script by which we will oftentimes live our life. It's as if the system has its own needs, just like an individual has a need. So the family, once a family is created, it has its own needs. And each child, the job of each child in the system is to fulfill a particular need. Like, for instance, the firstborn child, very often what the system most needs, especially if there's dysfunction between the parents, is they need a hero. They need a child who will bring them a sense of worth. If they're struggling with self-esteem, then this child, all of a sudden, the pressure is on for this child to be that which brings them a sense of worth. And the child will sort of like absorb that energy through osmosis. They begin to get a sense of, okay, I need to be responsible. I need to be the star. I need to be the one who brings attention, positive attention to the family. And so just by being born first child, that can be sort of the setup. Second-born children have a different role, and very often set the need of the family once they have the star, the child assigned to bring worth. Now what they need is health. The system needs to feel like a healthy system. And the second-born child's role is very often that of what we call the scapegoat. Their job is to bring health. The way they bring health to a family system is by being the one who is the problem, so that everyone in the family sort of points their finger at the second-born child and says, if it weren't for that child, this would be a healthy family. And so second-born children very often feel the pressure. They pick up the message that there's something defective about them, that there's something wrong with them, that they're not good enough, that they're bad children, sort of the rotten apple in the bunch. And then the third child comes along, and this child, the family is so busy taking care of the firstborn hero child's needs, going to all of their star-winning performances, and cleaning up after the second-born child and trying to control their behavior, that by the time the third child comes along, what the system may need is just simple relief. So the role of the third-born child then becomes one of needing to be sort of the lost child, the one who has no needs, the one who sort of disappears. I often say that you can tell when a person grew up as a lost child in their family because it'll be the person who you kind of go, well, where is Susan? I don't see Susan, and she'll be sitting right beside you. They are so good at withdrawing or into themselves sort of pulling their energy in that they even seem to disappear. And because the message to them is that their needs don't matter, that they aren't supposed to need anything. And then there's another role that very often, if there's a fourth-born child, the fourth-born child is very often their job for the family is to provide a sense of distraction. And that means that when tension is rising high between family members, maybe the parents are at it with each other or something, then it becomes the fourth-born child's job to distract as a way of pulling the energy away from the troubled situation and to themselves. Maybe they'll turn backflips down the hall, or they'll break out with some funny story, or they'll do some crazy thing. So fourth-born children often sort of get the leftovers. They are often followers, and it's like the old saying, craziness rolls downhill like a snowball. It just continues to gather momentum, and by the time the fourth-born child comes into the family, what lands in their lap is all the craziness of the system. So that's just a brief introduction to the four roles.
What about if the family has 5 or more children?
Then very often several things can happen here. Now, first thing I want to say is that this system that I'm describing to you is a blueprint. It's not carved in granite. It doesn't mean that everyone's family is going to follow suit. There can be particular circumstances that create deviation from this role. But very often, if there's a fifth child in the natural order of things, that they'll start over, or they'll pick up the role that meets the need of the family most at that particular time, at the birth of the fifth child. But there's also some other guidelines. For instance, if there's 4 to 5 years or more between children, like if there's a firstborn child and then 5 years later comes another child, then very often the roles will start over. It's like a new family has been created. I just worked with someone this morning who had an older sister who was a child of her mother but had a different father, and that child was a hero. And the client that I saw was the second-born child of her mother's, but she was her dad's firstborn child. And so she also had been a hero, and there was also like 8 years between she and her older sister, between her and her older sister. So, again, there are sort of special considerations to think about when we look at this model. But overall, it's a good guide to begin to look at our own families with.
Why do you think these roles are assigned? Do you think that maybe because of children being very impressionable?
What I mean by assigned is that it's not that the parents decide this child's going to be the hero and that one's going to be our problem child. It's more that the system decides it. The system, as I said a minute ago, is like its own entity. And it has a set of needs and a set of rules that it operates by that doesn't take into consideration the needs of any individual in the family, including the parents. So the parents are just as stumped and surprised by this sort of birth order as anybody. It's sort of like, well, my first child turned out so good. What happened to my second? Why is the second one so bad? Well, it's because the system has a different need. So it's the needs of the family that determine the role that's assigned.
And would you say that emotional and physical needs in children are sometimes not met because they are in conflict with the needs of the system or the family unit?
Yeah, the children's needs, and every individual in the family, their needs are sacrificed for the, quote, good of the system. The system rules the family. Once a couple comes together and establishes a family, there is a whole set of rules that come into play that determine what needs get met, and the system rules will lord over the needs of any individual.
Why would you say that children need stability from the family unit?
Because every one of us, when we come into this earth plane, we arrive here needy. Think about an infant. When you hold an infant, they can't walk, they can't talk, they can't even feed themselves. They're totally dependent on getting their needs met by and through those around them. And so, but what happens, of course, is that we come into a family that's governed by imperfect humans. Every parent comes from their own family system, had their own assigned role growing up, and so they come into and to start a new family very often from a place of unmet needs. So what happens is that depending on how well the needs of the particular child is met, and what are needs? Needs by the word, by the definition of the word need, means it has to happen. There are particular basic needs that we all have, not just food, air, shelter, water, but we also have emotional needs. We need to feel like that we belong. We need a sense of validity. We need to feel like that our thoughts and feelings are acceptable. We need to feel safe. There's a biggie. So there are basic human needs that every child, in order to thrive, in order to even survive, must have met. Years ago there was a research project done, and I'm talking, 60s probably, where they went into an orphanage and worked with children, and they had a group of children that they spent time with every day. They would hold the bottle when they fed the child and cuddle and talk to and love on those children. And then they had another group of children that were their basic fundamental needs were met. They were clothed and changed and fed, but they were not handled. They were not touched. Their bottles were prop fed. They were rather than held by human hand and rocked. And those children, every one of them, grew up or ended up with not only severe problems, but many of them did not even survive. So we know that there are critical emotional needs that all humans have.
So how would you define this responsibility of parents? Is it about protecting our children from experiencing pain?
Buffering our children from pain is not only not our job to a certain degree as parents, it's impossible. Just by virtue of being born on planet Earth carries with it life situations that we will have to experience. And as a matter of fact, it is going through life experiences, challenges, that we oftentimes develop our inner strength and find out what we're made of. So it's not so much that we're supposed to protect or try to buffer our children from pain. It is that when a child is born, I like to say that for every year older a child gets, their needs change, and we as parents are to take another step back from being responsible for them. In the beginning, we're totally responsible for them. Then as they're able to reach for things, we begin to step back and let them reach for what they can handle. We begin to let them assume more and more responsibility for themselves. That's our job. Our job as parents is to launch our children into a world where they are equipped to deal with. And if we totally buffer our children from experiencing life, they will not be equipped to deal with it.